It's time for Twig This Week in Google. A great guest for you this week. Gina and Jeff and I are joined by Dan Russell, who is in charge of user happiness at Google Search. Stay tuned. This Week in Google is next.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Bandwidth for This Week in Google is provided by Cachefly. Cachefly.com. This is Twig, This Week in Google, episode 88 for March 30th, 2011. My Cloud Girlfriend. This Week in Google is brought to you by Go to Assist Express. If you're in tech support, solve problems fast with the leader in remote support software. Go to Assist Express for a free 30-day trial. Visit gotoassist.com/twig. And by Squarespace.com, the fast and easy way to publish a high-quality website or blog. For a free 14-day trial, go to squarespace.com/twig. And by MailRoute.info. MailRoute is a secure hosted service that filters virus and spam for companies of any size. Save 10% for the life of your account by visiting MailRoute.info. It's time for Twig This Week in Google, the show that covers Google and the cloud. And, of course, we couldn't do it without our great panelists, starting with Gina Trapani from San Diego, California.
Greetings.
Blogger at
How's it going?
smarterware.org. It's great to see you. She's a
Good
Gleek.
to see you too.
Proud to be Gleeked.
Oh yes, of course.
Yes. Oh yes. And Jeff Jarvis also here. It's always good to have Jeff on the ranch, on the reservation. His book is due out in 2 days. The final edit.
Well, not due out, due from me.
Yeah, you're due out of your hands into the hands of the ginormous metal machine that will. Do they still use hot metal?
No.
They should. I want a letterpress version of your book.
I'd like that, yeah. I'd like to
parts.
feel the type on the page.
Yes. Hey, we've got a Googler with us. I'm very happy to welcome the Uber tech lead for search quality and user happiness, Dan Russell. Dan, it's good to have you.
Guten Tag. It's good to see you too.
Does the card actually say Uber tech lead?
My card actually says Uber Tech Lead with the umlaut.
With the
search
umlaut.
search quality and user happiness.
Wow.
That's not even a tweet. I mean, it's just too long.
Right. I can barely fit it on your graph, your lower third graphic on the video. It's stretching out. We had to concatenate search quality and user happiness into a Germanic single word.
And only on this show would we use concatenate in a sentence.
That's true. That's
This
true.
is why I love this show.
This is a smarter show than your average geek escapade. So Dan, how do you quantify user happiness, and how does search quality lead to user happiness?
Well, I think you know that people are pretty happy as they're searching. This is one of the reasons why Google is where it is. The quality part is, does the query response, does the search engine results page actually contain the stuff you care about? Happiness, well, comes from a lot of things. One thing it comes from is whether or not you get that sense of delight. So if you, for example, did weather San Diego, you would instantly get the sort of what we call the one-box result at the top, this sort of little cartoony thing that shows you. It's that stuff that you don't anticipate. You type in something like 23 euros in USD, and it converts it for you automatically. You might not have expected that, but that's a kind of delight. That's a kind of way of making people happy. We spend a lot of time and effort to make sure we do that on a constant day-to-day basis.
So things like the Uber tech lead, which appear to be mere whimsy, actually, there's a philosophy behind that. It's about delighting. It's the Google Doodles, the graphical elements in the search results page. All of that is really consciously put together to create an experience for the end user.
I hesitate to use deliberate and happiness in the same sentence, but yes, it's a very conscious, thought-out thing that we want. It's a part of our brand we want to preserve.
It's interesting. Is that from day one? Well, Jeff, you would probably know. Is that from day one?
I don't know. Dan will know better.
How long have you been at Google, Dan?
I've been here about 5.5 years now.
In Google terms, that's an old timer.
For for a happiness job?
How do you prepare for a happiness job? Wow.
Are the drugs really good out there? I mean,
And who did you work for before? Charlie and the Chocolate Factory? I mean,
kind of. I worked at Apple for 5 years.
Okay, they're experts in the same thing, yeah.
I worked at Xerox PARC for 12 years, and I worked at IBM.
Oh, well, you have quite a
that was your unhappy period,
quite a pedigree.
It just proves I can't hold a job.
What'd you do at PARC?
Kind of the same stuff. I was not a user happiness researcher there, but I did human-computer interaction. The key problem at that time was we were building big, hairy copiers for Xerox.
Right.
And big, hairy computer systems and all this. And we were trying to figure out how can we make that simple and easy to understand. And that sort of led to a large part of the InfoViz world. How do we make the graphics, the computer graphics, the interaction, so that you can actually explore data, you can understand it. It led to things like the Xerox Star, if you remember that.
The Alto.
Yes, the Alto predated that, but yeah, exactly. How can we make all that stuff easy to use, easy to understand? That's what I did.
Gina just took Edward Tufte's class.
Oh, excellent.
I did.
Yeah.
I did. It was really good. So it sounds like user happiness is about Google trying to anticipate, and Jeff talks about this a lot, Google trying to anticipate what it is the user is looking for and getting that moment of like, oh yeah, that's exactly what I wanted. Maybe a step, sooner than I thought. I thought I was gonna have to click off to weather.com to get the temperature in San Diego, which by the way will always make you happy. But it's right there. It's right there on the page, and sort of like along the lines of Instant. Like Google Instant often delights me and knows what I makes suggestions. Well, there's Google Suggest and then Google Instant, right? When it sort of knows where I'm going with a query that has words that could have many meanings.
Right. So that's exactly right. That's one way. If we could read your mind in some way or sort of help to presage what's coming next, that would be great. And so Instant is exactly that. It's one of those things where as you type, it's running the query in the background. And often it will do the query and give you the results before you realize that those are the results you needed, which is fantastic. Right. And the role of Suggest, as you know, is that it puts up the suggested queries that other people have made on that same topic. And often that will let you help to refine the idea. So often we'll see people either in the lab or in the field where they're trying to work out how to ask that question, and they'll see something in the suggestion box, and they'll say, that's it. They click on it, bang, they're done.
Yeah,
right,
I always
that's
say
how
that Google wants to intuit your intent.
Yes.
And then that the god of Google is relevance, and those who act like relevance is just randomness. I say that it's not. Serendipity is unexpected relevance. So I didn't expect that I would like this or know this or need this. I still want to get back to the measurement thing, Dan. So when you invent something new and crazy, like +1,
which we're going to talk about in a sec.
I know.
Yeah.
I wanted to say it first. So that's not like doing an A/B test.
Right.
How do you test that?
For something like +1, we do dog fooding to begin with. And so we build out the prototypes, we then deploy it internally and do an extensive series of sort of, gee, how did you like it? Asking all the Googlers we know, sort of checking it that way. So we get a ground truth check very early on. The other thing we often do, we'll do lab studies where we will bring people in, NDA them, see if they can understand what that's all about. So we do a combination.
Them in the basement.
Yes. We'll bring them in and have them do some tasks and try to recreate as real an experience and watch how they use it. We also watch the ways in which they don't use it. So we're also trying to measure their level of non-understanding or unhappiness.
So it strikes me there's a fine line between love and hate, and sometimes by attempting to do too much, you can actually peeve people off. And I think there's a little bit of a drawback to testing it on Googlers. I think that this is one of the criticisms that Google often gets, is that the in-house tested stuff often, Googlers are not like you and me.
They are not representative of the general population.
You know what? They probably are like Gina and Jeff and me, but they're not like real people.
They're not like real people. That's a key idea, actually. So part of my job is actually to get out of Google, get out of Silicon Valley, and go other places in the country and other places in California. So a couple months ago, I was in Merced, Mariposa, Eastern California. interviewing people there, seeing how they understood parts of the Google user interface, the parts of the Google experience. So you're absolutely right. If you ask 9 out of 10 people here in the Valley understand what a file structure is.
Right.
That's not true in the rest of the United States.
I'm not sure I understand it, but you know, we've said this a lot on this show, is that what Google needs is not more computer scientists, but more social scientists.
Yeah.
Is that kind of what you are, as a hybrid?
No, actually, I have a PhD in artificial intelligence.
Oh, well.
But I
How's
recovered.
that working out for you? Yeah.
I recovered, got better, and actually what really happened, a seminal experience for me was being at Park. And I had been working on a very fantastic total AI logic theorem proving system that would help people use this very complex copier that we'd built.
Right.
And we did an early user study, and we actually had a Nobel Prize winner come in, and he was completely lost in using that system.
Oops.
Yeah, it was. This was my on the road to Ephesus moment, and I realized that you could have the most fantastic AI in the world, but if the interface doesn't communicate what it's about, doesn't make sense, you're lost.
Yeah.
So that was really the moment I sort of switched from doing AI to doing HCI. And that's when I started realizing I needed to understand the humanity of it and how people really thought, what they really understand, what they like and what they don't like.
Little side note, at 4 o'clock this afternoon, we're interviewing Ray Kurzweil, another AI legend.
Right.
I wonder what his road to Ephesus was. So let us. What we're gonna do, Dan. You're here. If you guys want to ask Dan some questions, we have a lot of Google news as well. I guess I'll leave it to you, Gina and Jeff. You want to quiz Dan some more, or include him in the conversation? Let's talk about +1, for instance.
Yeah, let's talk about +1. I'm wondering if how much Dan was involved in that, and whether we should chat about it while he's with us.
Yeah, let's briefly discuss what it is. It sounds like you can dig Google search results, basically.
Yes, you can. Basically, +1, just to let you know, I was not really involved in that. I certainly know what it is. And in calling it the sort of digification of results, saying that you like a particular result so that, it shows up higher in your next time you search for something like that, that's basically what it is. It is an effort to try to take advantage of the global network of people and what they know, and try to build that in a little bit more. We realize that that's an important part of our online experience. How can we do something with that?
Now, does it show up? I don't see it yet on my Google results. Is there a little thumbs up?
You can sign up in the lab.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, you have to opt into the experiment.
So that's actually a good point, because we do a lot of experiments about different kinds of things. We're constantly changing the UI. I guess people know this generally, but we're constantly running hundreds and hundreds of experiments on live traffic, and this is one of them. In this case, you can opt into it. In many cases, we're doing things where we move things around or change the colors or the layout or something.
Don't tell me. I know. I've caught you doing that.
That's true. It's true.
So you do it to some of the users, a subset of the users, and see what happens.
That's right. We do it for we do a random selection. So it's like a 1% or a 5% or something like that, and it's basically all random selection.
Yeah.
And so by that we can tell whether or not the change we've made actually is a positive change or a negative change. And that's another important aspect of what we do. So we do things like lab studies, we do field studies, and we do live traffic studies.
Matt Cutts says the address is google.com/experimental.
I've been trying to find it. Okay, good. Google.com/experimental. So, how do you get metrics? Are the metrics, Dan, on how speed? I mean, you're not watching people. You're not doing eye tracking on your users out there. How can you tell what kind of result you're getting with them?
We have a lot of sort of secret sauce analysis on that, so I'm not going to tell you a lot of details about that. But what we're doing basically is seeing whether or not people are successful at completing their task. Now, we don't always know what their task is, but we do have measures that tell us that the experience is going well for them. In essence, we're trying to see if you're in a flow state, if it's working.
Flow is the word.
Flow is the word.
The word.
We don't exactly have a flowometer. But we do have ways of sort of seeing whether or not things are clicking along well for you, and you're going smoothly from thing to thing to thing, and that's
it is a little bit of timing, kind of, sort of.
Yeah, that's a good way of thinking about it. Yeah, it's also
me
things like
uncomfortably reminded of my urologist, but we won't go there.
Okay, so I've turned it on now, and so I see a little. This is interesting. I see a little +1 box. Yeah. Now, how is now? You know, I've seen this before within my account. I can rearrange search results, but this is not the same thing. This will say to whom that this is a better result, for instance, than others.
It's basically. Well, what we're doing right now is it's just affecting your results, but, you know, in general, you can think about, you know, we're going to be using this information to help potentially change the way in which we think about assessing relevance. But
you don't have a bury button, good news.
A what?
A bury button. That was what pretty much killed Dig.
Right. No.
Right, a dislike.
Dislike, no dislike.
Minus 2.
That's right.
Yeah.
Is
right.
this part
we don't have
of
that.
the Matt Cutts world that is trying to find more signals of quality to improve search results?
Yes.
Is this us helping Google?
We're constantly looking at many, many factors to improve quality. If we can figure out some, you know, that every third character, if it's a consonant, improves the quality, that's something we'll try to discover with our data mining and our experimental studies.
Matt also points out in the chat room that you can block results, guys, by clicking on a result and then clicking back. And there's the Chrome extension to block sites, and I presume that's more data for you as well as to what problem sites there are.
Right, that's right.
Yeah.
So
that's an extension you have to add, of course.
Yeah, that's right. So our goal in all of this is how can we make the search results increasingly relevant to you? And if we can make it more relevant to you by using a +1 signal, that's fantastic. This is all part of our goal to make you happy.
Yeah.
I totally understand that, and I think this is cool. I think from a user perspective, though, it makes me feel like I'm so confused. Like there's starring, there's bookmarking, there's sharing and liking and reader. There's
Well, and I
services.
get different results depending if I'm logged in or not.
You have to be logged in for this to make any sense.
Yeah.
Right.
But when I log out, I actually get different search results.
Right.
Like my profile's on top when I'm logged in. When I'm not logged in, it's down towards the middle of the pack. Which actually is nice. It wasn't on there at all before, so I appreciate you at least giving me a profile.
That was Matt, not me.
Yeah. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Matt. For a while, I actually asked Matt about that, and for a while, Matt said, "Oh, you're a celebrity. We don't put your profile in search results."
Yeah.
Thanks.
Matt has the smoothest.
Yeah.
I know, he's so charming. He can make you feel like a rock star while basically saying no.
Oh. So me and Mick Jagger, we have the same issue. Thank you.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, I think this +1 is you know, it's an experiment. I notice you can only do it one experiment at a time if you go to that google.com/experimental. That's kind of cool, though. There are other experiments.
It had a pretty big launch for an opt-in experiment, right? Because those experiments kind of update fairly often, right? I guess some get more attention than others.
That's right. There are lots of things that go absolutely nowhere. Some that take off really well, and then they get incorporated into the main search results mechanism, and you know. So some experiments fail. If you're not failing at some experiments, you're not doing something right. You're not trying hard enough.
Yes.
Completely agree.
Yeah.
Whereas Lady Gaga said, "If I'm not standing in Marissa's shadow, I must be off campus." Something. It was like that, though. It was
something like that.
Something like that. Yeah.
Right. But it's worth knowing that we run, like I said, hundreds and hundreds of experiments, and I would say the vast majority of them don't work, and that's okay. But we learn something in the process. We learn things that don't work, and so we can try to design the whole experience, design the visual affordance, visual appearance of the page, the way things flow from one property to the next. So all things start to work together to be better.
It's very cool, actually. I think I love seeing a little bit behind the scenes of the process, because this is such a difficult thing to do, and so challenging. You know?
It is, and from my perspective as a researcher on this, the challenge is both at the very large end, where we look at, say, millions of interactions through logs, but also looking at the personal one-to-one kind of end of it. For example, I've been interviewing people about how they, for example, use the advanced search page. And I've had people say, ick, I hate this. Unfortunately, that doesn't show up in logs.
Right.
And so part of my job is to bridge the qualitative behaviors we see in the field, the people saying ick or saying they love it, and then being able to go look for evidence elsewhere in the log behavior.
So this
we
is the
need an
focus group
HTML5
problem.
element that can grab user, facial expressions when they.
Oh, that'll be good. Google would like to watch you while you look at this page. Say yes or no. There's also a big issue of unintended consequences because Google is so big and so powerful. I'll give you an example. Amanda Hesser wrote an interesting guest blog post. I think it was on TechCrunch. She's a recipe writer and wrote a great cookbook for the New York Times. And she pointed out that billions of recipe searches a month on Google, billions. It is simply the largest, most influential arbiter of how to cook food in the world, much more so than any food blog or than Epicurious or any magazine. And she said, Google recently made a change, a seemingly sensible change, to the recipe search. You can constrain the search based on ingredient, amount of time to cook it, and I think there was a third constraint. But she said this has an unintended consequence. People are going to make worse food because it artificially promotes sites that have the manpower to put this metadata into their recipes, and the simple cooking blogs that just have great recipes are gonna be left out with this kind of thing. You must pay attention to these kind of unintended consequences, but it's very hard to predict.
It is. The good news about that particular thing is the microformat syntax is relatively simple to do. So the amount of manpower it takes, person power it takes, is really small. I mean, you can go in and just very quickly edit that HTML and just add it.
Yeah, Dan, but
she also points out that the longest cooking time is an hour. So in this constraint, she says, so let's say you want to make cassoulet. There is no cassoulet that takes less than 4 hours to make.
That's right, or a decent loaf of bread.
Right.
Same sort of deal.
So she found a lot of cassoulet recipes. There's a 1-minute cassoulet, but it wasn't cassoulet really.
Crunch, crunch, crunch.
And there's also SEO issues where people will, artificially change the calories or the cooking time, lie about the calories, things like that.
But that's we have SEO for absolutely everything. I'm not surprised we have SEOs about kcals as well.
Right.
So. But
I think I want to call you.
Oh, it was the Huffington Post, by the way. I should just real quickly say it was not TechCrunch. This was a Huffington Post article from March 24th. If you want to read it from Amanda.
The microformats problem there. I agree, but I think that Amanda's right that if you get to I know a lot of food bloggers, and they're bloggers. They're not data sites.
They're not going to do a micro format.
Right. They're not going to know how to. It's hard enough for them to figure out going beyond what they do. And so it really is Google's job to format for them, I would argue.
Well, to the extent that we can extract that metadata and assemble it properly, we will. It's largely a problem of making the parsers robust enough so that they can crawl arbitrary content and then extract the metadata and do the right thing. I mean,
it's very hard.
To give you another example of that, we also have this fantastic feature in search called define. So you say define : word, like define : peruse, and we crawl the entire web looking for definitions. Peruse is blah, 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 blah.
Right.
And, that's a kind of thing where we have unintentionally made the world's biggest dictionary as well. But what's it doing to the dictionary manufacturers?
Right.
It's another resource, right? It doesn't exclude them.
So
when we started Epicurious back in the day, back in the 90s, we had thousands and thousands of recipes from Gourmet and Bon Appetit, and we had the same problem then with the metadata and getting them in. And we had them typed, honest to God, by troops of monks.
Yeah.
Monks are good. They have good attention to detail.
They're data monks. The only problem was that when you hit a certain part of the year, they had to break off to make their fruitcakes.
Those monks. They're good.
The Mechanical Turk of the 90s.
So they were honest to God real monks.
Oh, I've had those Trappist fruitcakes.
Yeah.
Well, at least they weren't in the fryer business.
Oh, thank you very much. He likes puns too. So I'm just going back to Amanda's article, and it's best place to go to her blog. Let's not give HuffPo any more credit. Food52, the number 52.com. Did Google read this and is there a response to this? I mean, obviously you can't jump to respond either because then you might have other side effects.
No, I personally haven't read that blog yet, but there are many, many blogs on Google, and I can't read them all. I try to stay busy on top of stuff, but that particular one I don't know about.
It's an interesting indictment of and I only bring it up because it's about unintended consequences. I'm sure Google, with every intention of improving recipe search, added these 3 parameters. What's interesting to me was also that 1 billion recipe searches a month just shows you the power that you wield.
I think there's a different. I think kind of savvy web users know that, like, if I'm looking up a word, I use define on Google a lot. But if I really want to see the whole definition, I click through. I'll glance at Google's definitions aggregated from various sources. Then I'll click through. It's kind of the way I deal with Wikipedia. I'll skim Wikipedia if I just want to kind of overview. But if I really want to know the details, I click through to the sources. The kind of the original sources. And I know that's kind of I spent a lot of time on the web, so I've kind of figured that out. But I don't know. I think that's something that users should know about too.
By the way, Google did respond. Kavi, who is he says, I'm the product manager at the Google Search Quality Team and was one of the people who helped create Recipe View. Long, thoughtful response. So Google does pay attention. Absolutely.
Wow, that's quite a response.
Yeah, really long, thoughtful response. Yep.
Yeah. I also put up a link just now to Jonathan Stray wrote a blog post this week that got around a lot of attention on the editorial bias the human bias that is built into any algorithm.
Yes.
And we know it's there. We sometimes forget about that, but of course it's there.
That's right. There's editorial bias in everything.
Yeah.
I was going to say there's editorial bias in everything. We tend to think of libraries as not having a particular point of view, but in fact, every book in a library is curated. Someone had to acquire it. They had to decide to not pick out the other 10,000 books. And so libraries have a bias as well. In fact, it's much smaller than the corpus that we operate under.
You're right. David Weinberger does a great spiel on that, the co-author of the Clue Train Manifesto that goes through Dewey and says there's
a bias there.
100 numbers for Christianity and like 2 for Judaism and 1 number for everything else in the world.
Right. That's right.
So
Excellent
Dewey has
point.
bias.
Yeah. And I think people feel like, computer algorithms are inherently unbiased, but somebody writes the algorithm.
That's right. That's right.
In fact, there's the guy right there.
Another thing I want to bring up about unintended consequences is, one of the things I discover when I go out and I watch people search, because I do that a lot, is they'll, for example, land on a very long search page, results page, and they won't be able to find the word that they're looking for.
Right.
And so what do? Well, if you're a digeratus, one of us, you know how to use Control F or Command F or Edit Find. Right. And in my researches, I've discovered that 90% of the U.S. internet using population does not know how to do that. That means when they land on that landing page, they cannot find the thing that they're looking for, and they have to read through it line by line. And if it's 140 screenfuls long, that makes them crazy. So you notice in the preview thing that we did, if you click, it actually will highlight the search terms on the preview doc so you know where to go look for them.
Yes, yeah, and Gmail does that as well, right? Gmail uses the kind of yellow highlighter.
Yes. Right. Exactly.
Yep. Yeah.
So that's one of these things where we found out something that we hadn't anticipated. We added a new feature that's intended to really accelerate people's use of the tool, so that they can get to their results faster. They don't have to think about it as hard. We can just make their life faster, simpler, more efficient.
Actually, I really like what you've done with the search, the recipe search. Now that I look at it, on the left side, we can turn off ingredients. Yes, of course, admittedly, cooking time only goes up to 60 minutes, and calories only go up to 500 calories. But that's, if you're a fool if you're looking at cassoulet and you say, well, I'd like the 15-minute version. Yeah, but look, the search results are great, frankly. Yeah. And I love this, additional capability. I don't think I see anything wrong with it. And look here, something different with the confit, risotto, tagine, paella, and gnocchi.
What are other areas of life that will be good for this kind of search?
Well, for this kind of metadata faceted search, you mean?
Yeah.
Well, generally, anything that has metadata, right?
Right.
But more generally, there are large numbers of domains, and I'm not going to give you any pre-announcements here, but you can imagine areas of knowledge where there are different facets like this. In this case, we have dimensions like calories or ingredients or something, where you want to include or exclude particular properties. The easy one would be something like, imagine something that does travel. That's the example that everybody uses. I want to have things that fit within these constraints and not those. And so anytime you have a domain of knowledge with a lot of dimensions, a lot of constraints that you can apply.
So you can do it with retail. I mean, in terms of travel, what I would wish is I could do that with restaurants and go to the next level of knowing what their menu is.
Well, you can do something like that with our shopping results now. You can, for example, limit it to within a particular price range.
Right.
And that's another instance of that.
One thing we talk a lot about on this show is the rapid ascendancy of social search and Facebook's advantage there over Google. And that would be another way to add metadata, to add search refinements, is with social. But it's a thorny, a challenging thing to incorporate social into the user experience in a way that isn't, first of all, creepy.
Right.
You want to go right up to that creepy line, but not cross it. But also useful. What are you doing there?
Well, I can't. First off, I'm not involved in that, so I can't tell you any secret stuff. I don't even have any good secrets to tell you about that.
Okay.
But you can imagine. You're absolutely right.
You recognize the issue, of course.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. And it's clear that it's a great repository of information like this, and it's clear that search is becoming increasingly personal, increasingly social, increasingly local. So there's all these new properties that we'd like to be able to bring into it, and this is something we'll have to try to figure out.
I want to thank you, Dan, for joining us. We really appreciate it. You're going to lose the conference room in 3 minutes. We don't want to have the same thing happen that happened last time. So
yeah,
we'll let you go. But it's really great to talk to you. Thank you for volunteering to be on here. I really
my pleasure.
I really appreciate Google's openness and willingness to talk in a public forum about what it's up to. It's great. Thank you, Dan. Take care.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
see you.
It's great to have you. Dan Russell is Uber Tech Lead in Search Quality and User Happiness at Google. We're going to take a little break, come back, and talk about lots of other news with Google, and then we'll have cassoulet for all. But I'm cooking it right now. I got the 15-minute version. It should be ready in a second. But first, let me talk a little bit about GoToAssist Express, those great folks who make it possible to do remote support without tearing your hair out. Anybody who supports family, friends, or does it in business, supports clients, colleagues, knows how challenging telephone support is. And you don't always have the ability to go down the hall or across town or across the country to fix the problem. So this is where GoToAssist Express is so useful. It allows you to do remote access to the problem, fix it yourself without walking somebody through it, and it is incredible. If you're on the phone with somebody, you send them a link, they install it, 30 seconds later, you're in. Mac or PC, completely cross-platform. Fix a Mac from a PC and vice versa. And just the easiest to use. First of all, it's fast. Nobody's going to use a remote support platform. No tech person's going to use a remote support platform if they have to, move the mouse and wait as they watch the pointer go across the screen. This thing is just about as fast as can be. Citrix really knows how. They do all sorts of clever tricks to make sure that it feels snappy and responsive. They even do things like they allow you to have 8 sessions at once. So you can start an install on a machine and then move to the next and start a scan and move to the third. And that way you're much more efficient with your time. That's probably why Frost & Sullivan, which is an industry analyst group that specializes in this particular sector of software, gave GoToAssist Express the name market-wide world leader, #1 remote support solution worldwide. Easy to use, 100% secure using 128-bit SSL. Very simple for your clients. They don't have to have it installed. You just send them a link, as I said, and it couldn't be easier. It is just a great way to do support, and I want you to try it. Believe me, one of the things I insist on with all of our advertisers is a chance for you to try before you buy, and Citrix has been great about this. Not just, try it for an hour. 30 days free. GoToAssist.com/twig. GoToAssist.com/twig. I know a lot of you who watch our shows are in the support business. You're IT professionals, software support people. Certainly, we all support family and friends. This is a tool you want. They have day passes for those of us who don't do it all the time. Go to it, as well as the monthly subscription. GoToAssist.com/twig. We thank them for their support of This Week in Google. Gina, I wanted to ask you about this word now that Honeycomb will not go open for some time.
Yes. Yeah. So Andy Rubin said that they rushed the Motorola Zoom, which is the Honeycomb sort of flagship.
Oh, you mean the one we spent $600 on, that Motorola Zoom? It's not ready? Oh, Oh, somebody else bought one.
So a little birdie at Google, who shall remain nameless, sent me a Motorola Zoom.
Oh,
so
you didn't have to buy it. Well, that's good.
I've been test driving it for a week. And
what do you think?
Wow. So what do you think?
It's my first tablet, so I'm having that first novel, like, holy crap, tablets are cool moment.
Yes.
But I like it very much. It's a big slab O computer. The on button is in a really weird place, but I like it very much. I'm still getting used to it. I've only had a few days with it, and I'm probably going to give it away to one of my contributors on ThinkUp. But for the most part, I like it. I wouldn't have spent my own money on it. I still think that the price is too high, and Honeycomb's still not fully baked, which brings us back to this story.
Yeah.
That's this story, right?
Right.
So Google is not releasing Honeycomb source code, which has open source enthusiasts and religious and zealots kind of up in arms. How open really is Android? I have to tell you, and this is probably going to get me in trouble with some of the more sort of religious types. I'm okay with it. I'm okay with Google holding on to Honeycomb until they feel like it's ready to release. I don't think if you've taken shortcuts in code and you've written crappy code, especially if you're Google, you don't release it yet. I think they rushed Honeycomb to market. The Zoom is obviously still unfinished for whatever their reasons were, maybe the iPad. But honestly, I think that Google should have a little more control over Android. I'd like to see them up their standards a little more and enforce some more rules around who can put the Google name on every device and what it does. So I'm okay with this for now. And I know I'm supposed to be enraged, but Android is open enough for me. People are upset. They feel like Android is using open source as a marketing tool, but it's not truly open source, because true open source projects, the sources, there's committers, outside committers, there are nightly builds, the source is always available. Google holds back and does releases in batches, and now this Honeycomb release, there's no telling when it's going to happen.
Isn't this what happens, though, every time? It seems, my memory is that every time there's a new version, there's a period of time, sometimes months, between the release of the version on phones and the open sourcing of that version.
That is true.
So is this different?
The difference this time is that there's no date. I mean, the announcement was we're not releasing this yet, and we don't. And
maybe
there's
maybe never.
It sounds like they'll wait for never. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's not clear.
I don't think it's going to be never.
I just mean that there'll be a next version of. They'll skip the ice cream bar. Or sandwich, or whatever the heck it is. That this one may never be ready for prime time. Gina, let me ask you this. In the older days of software, the choice that you always made was whether you used it inside your enterprise, then you could always fix it. If you had to shrink wrap it for others, it had to be of a higher quality to support. Right. Is that true even in something like Android? That okay, fine, we can make the Zoom work, we can work with Motorola, and it'll be fine, it'll work. But if this thing starts propagating against other devices, we could have a lot of problems.
I think even more so
for that.
Even more so, right? In phones, it's even more so.
Yeah, and that's the company line, right? Is that releasing this code would create a bad user experience because folks would start putting it on devices and it's just not ready. They took shortcuts and there's code there they don't want to release to the world yet. It's a big deal when you put code out there, especially when you're Google, because everyone's going to grab it and start using it, and you don't want bad code to kind of propagate.
Well, and Andy Rubin also said that we did it for a tablet. We didn't want to think. This is a quote from Bloomberg. We didn't want to think about what it would take for the same software to run on phones. It would have required a lot of additional resources and extended our schedule beyond what we thought was reasonable. So we took a shortcut. In other words, they said we're going to make it available for a tablet.
Right.
But it's going to take a while to get it ready for phones. I agree with you, Gina. I don't think that's so awful.
Yeah,
I don't think that's so bad. But, you have someone like Cyanogen, he would have grabbed Honeycomb and made it ready for any, you could try it on your phone if you wanted. If the compatibility to smaller screens wasn't there, it would have been a crappy experience. It would have been bad,
So which hurts
PR.
Google more? Holding it back or putting it out as a crappy experience?
Uh-huh.
I would say they should hold it back if it's not ready.
Yeah, I kind of agree.
But,
I think they're walking a really interesting line here.
Especially since it never really is fully open source in the sense that you can't go to GitHub and download Honeycomb. Right. You couldn't go to GitHub and download Gingerbread. You couldn't do that with any of them until Google officially dropped the code. So this is no different.
Exactly. Well, it's no different, only that it's not clear when it's going to drop. I mean, normally it drops after the first devices that run it come out, and there's an expectation that's coming out, and the ROM community is ready. So people are upset because they feel like this sets a bad precedent, and Google's grabbing more control of the source, and they're not contributing back upstream to Linux the way they should. They're not behaving sort of like good open source community members. I think Google just needs to make Android a really good experience. I think they need to do what they need to do in order to achieve that. But they're walking a tough line, and I think they're doing. I mean, I don't think anyone's really done this before, so they're sort of blazing a new path. It doesn't bug me, but I can see how some open source zealots, are upset that this is a bad precedent.
Open source zealots get upset if you call it Linux. I mean, it's not. I mean, there's all sorts of it's not a monolithic community, and not everybody's upset. And some people are, and some people aren't.
Right. That's true. Absolutely
I would say it's pretty clear that Android is not a traditional open source, fully open project, nor has it ever been.
It is not. Right. And Google's a company that makes money. that's developing Android. So
there almost needs to be a different word for that. Between API and open source, there's this kind of controlled source.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't really bother me. I think Google, I'll tell you one thing, Google's put so much value into open software in so many areas, in so many ways, that I think you can cut them a little slack on this. Maybe not, I don't know, but it just doesn't feel to me like this is malicious. In fact, I think they're being very, very transparent and saying, hey, this isn't ready.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that the real story here was the admission that Ruben said, we took shortcuts and we shipped this device before it was ready, and we know it, and we're saying it. That concerned me. I was like, well, it's kind of remarkable. It's like, whoa, okay.
Google does that. I mean, that's, to me, I'm sure, Jeff, you wrote about this, but it's kind of stunning how open they are for a publicly held company.
I mean, I interviewed Eric Schmidt on the topic for the book, and this will be controversial too, but he argues that Google is, and I quote him, as open as it can be.
Right. I'd say that's true.
Yeah, and you can't make the algorithms open. You can't reveal certain financials beforehand, but that he says that if you have a problem, you write down the problem and you do that. There's in the Google cafeteria this week, there's a lot of crow on the menu. This is one, and not to go too far afield from this topic, but the FTC. If we want to mention that quickly.
The buzz crow.
The buzz crow.
Yeah, the buzz crow.
They did a settlement with the FTC over the privacy problems with Buzz, which of course lasted about a weekend, but they were, as we criticized them a great deal for them, they were pretty severe. And the admission on Google's own blog of the problems is pretty stunning. Where they just said, we screwed up and we did this wrong, and this is what we're going to do. We're going to take our medicine. And I know there was a lot of negotiation behind the scenes about that I'm sure had a different
I kind of like it, though, that they just said, hey, they threw themselves on the sword.
Too.
Yeah.
And they apologized again today.
An update on Buzz. User trust really matters to Google. That's why we try to be clear about what data we collect and how we use it. That said, we don't always get everything right. The launch of Google Buzz fell short of our usual standards for transparency and user control. While we worked quickly to make improvements, regulators, including the U.S. Federal Trade Commission, unsurprisingly wanted more detail about what went wrong and how we could prevent it from happening again. We'd like to apologize again for the mistakes we made with Buzz. We are 100% focused on ensuring our new privacy procedures effectively protect the interests of all our users going forward. That's Alma Witten writing. She's Director of Privacy, Product, and Engineering. Good for Google.
Yeah.
I don't want to sound like a Google fanboy, but you rarely see people fall on the sword like that.
Yeah.
That's true. But, this FTC settlement is kind of embarrassing. I mean, this is unprecedented, right? I mean, the FTC is going to check in on Google. The FTC is basically going to be babysitting Google's privacy practices for the next 20 years.
Whoa.
Which is not in that blog post. They said every 2 years, but it's going to be for the next 20 years.
Holy cow.
That's kind of a big deal. Jeff, has something like this happened to any other company in terms of privacy breaches?
Microsoft got a pretty big slap on trust, and they had a regulator sitting in on Microsoft. I think still is sitting on Microsoft decisions, but I can't remember anything like this with privacy.
Leo, if you go to on the list, I think is the official FTC release.
Oh, I'll find it here.
It's on there as well.
Yeah, FTC.gov. Let's see what the FTC says.
Yeah, and the odd thing about this one to me is
this sounds like the FTC found that it was malicious, deceptive.
Because what happens was if you I forget it's funny wording because I forget what the wording was, but if it says if you click on you bet this will happen, and no way that'll happen, whatever the language was, a little farther down. And, the odd thing about this to me, again,
Here it is.
Sweet.
On the day Buzz was launched, Gmail users got a message announcing the new service and were given 2 options. Sweet, check out Buzz. By the way, this is more of that delight that Dan was talking about. Or, nah, go to my inbox. I have to admit, the FTC's right here. Nobody wants to be a nah kind of person. We all want to be a sweet person.
Well, what they're really saying is that if you clicked on nah, you were still including Buzz in ways you didn't know. Bzz, mistake.
Yeah.
But what's not in here is, and I had this problem too, 11 privacy commissioners, including Canada and Germany, sent a letter to Eric Schmidt about a year ago advising that Google should not put out betas. Now, that shows such a complete misunderstanding of this new culture where the government people think that failure is death because people will come after them.
You will make a mistake and we may not allow a mistake. Yeah.
Exactly. And this whole idea that they're going to open up, and the process of opening up is collaboration, and mistakes are necessary in that process, and it's part of learning. They're bringing this government mindset, this old classical industrial mindset, to the new digital age. And there's nothing clearer to me that shows that difference in the private way of doing things and the public way of doing things. And if you're going to put out betas, the irony of Buzz, of course, was it should have been called a beta, and that might have saved them a lot of problems. It was a huge mistake.
They didn't say it was a beta?
No.
Oh, that's
ironic. The first major product release from Google, it was not a beta.
That's ironic.
It was the one that most needed to be.
Right.
But what disturbs me about that is that they're saying you shouldn't try things in public in collaboration with the public, that you should make them perfect beforehand. Of course, there is no perfect. And I find that very disturbing in our new culture.
I agree.
At the same time, you have today, for example, 3 senators are trying to take out of all the app stores an app that will tell you where DWI checkpoints are. Now, I understand their objection to it, most certainly. But
if they could put it in the newspaper, they could put it in an app.
Bingo. And so is there a First Amendment protection of apps?
Hell yes.
Is there a protection? So Google's problem here with Buzz is that did they F up? You bet they did. And they admit they did. And if they did that with audacity and nastiness and left it up forever and didn't care, that's one matter. But if they said, okay, we learned, we fixed it, and we all remember that weekend when they spent the whole weekend hauling ass to fix this, then what the government is saying here is that even if you make a mistake for a short time, you're guilty of something. And that's going to make everyone more cautious, except lawyers, in terms of getting jobs. They're going to stop you from doing things, saying, well, the FTC could come after you if you screw up here. And that's chilling on innovation. And for that reason, I'm now getting very upset. I'm getting back in Jeff mode here. I
agree with you, though. Be upset. Yes.
The FTC is pissing me off again because this is none of their damned beeswax.
Well, wait a minute. Okay, I will disagree.
No, not none. But to the extent that they went to this, the extent that they said that a short-term error is as bad as a long-term error.
But, okay. I think demanding no betas is one thing. But the FTC saying we'd like oversight is not, that's representing our interests. And I think Google, it's in their interest that they have that FTC people sitting there because that reassures people about what Google, people are scared of Google. So I think this is in Google's interest.
Fine, but let me ask you this, Leo. Is this the most heinous case in privacy?
No, hell no.
No.
Right, so is this the one that should have brought down this hammer?
But
Jeff, it had to set a precedent. They had to set a precedent.
Yeah,
and they had to make a statement. Right, the Buzz thing was a huge failure, and there were real consequences. Right, Andrew McLaughlin's contact list was published. I mean, that was a pretty serious consequence. I have to say, I looked at what the FTC did. I don't want chilling effect on innovation either, Jeff. But I looked at what the FTC did and said, okay, they lowered a pretty heavy hammer. And I encourage our listeners to read both the Google blog post and then the FTC statement because the tone is very different.
Oh yeah,
on both sides.
Yeah, Google has its tail between its legs.
Yeah,
I mean they're really going sorry.
And as we said, for a reason, it was a screw up. It was appallingly handled. I absolutely agree with all that.
But it was a technical error. Exactly. It was not malicious. It was a bug.
Actually, Leo, no, they're kind of saying that that Google lied to you. That if you clicked on
do you think they, well, I guess, and this is a question to an intent that we can't answer, and do you think that there was an intent to gather information against our will?
No, I don't think so. I think it was not a technical error. I think it was a human error. But they said Google offered a turn-off buzz option that did not fully remove the user from the social network.
Yeah,
right. That is colossally stupid on Google's part.
Right.
Right. And they've done colossally stupid things that put them in a bad position. The grabbing of data from Wi-Fi and Street View.
Right.
Had no value.
That was a bug. That was an error.
But, well, even if it wasn't, some say that it was a geek going too far, it had no commercial use, but the damage to both Google and the cause of technology and innovation was great. Google's got to understand that it has this higher calling, but we also have to be cautious, I think, and I'm going to sound like a libertarian. I'm not. I voted for Obama and Hillary Clinton, but government intervention at this level, I would have preferred a settlement that was more fully private, that Google came up with very open ways on its own, than the FTC now having clear government control over this.
Yeah, that's my problem. But I don't know what is. I don't think that I guess I don't fear the FTC having oversight of Google. And I think it's in Google's interest. To be honest, I think that's one of the reasons Google was quick to tuck its tail between its legs. This is something that Google, this is a potential, this is a minefield for Google, and so it's something that they probably really, truthfully welcome, because that will improve people's trust. Google has to have our trust, or they're dead.
Then that's not just Google; that's the entire industry, and I fear the do not track legislation that's coming up, which will surely pass because do not anything is going to pass in Washington. Yeah. But that could be very, very damaging, as I've said on the show before, to the business of media. And so I've been critical of the ad industry and media industry that they've been absolutely colossally stupid because they have not been transparent. They've been deceptive. They've creeped people out, and they should have been very different. So the issue here isn't so much that Google should have had the hammer come down. The issue instead should have been that the industry should have.
Yeah. Well, that's
true.
True.
Have standards that Google and the FTC could have worked together to say, the positive way to put this was we screwed up and we're going to turn around and we're going to set a new bar in privacy for the industry.
But think how bad it would have been for Google had the FTC and Google looked like they were in collusion. They said, and the FTC said, "Oh, no problem. It's Google. You could trust them," and said, fine. Everything's fine. Google wanted to be spanked, needed to be spanked.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
There's a huge risk if the FTC doesn't spank them. Much bigger risk than having some guy sit there in the meeting. Big deal. Send him over to the cafe, have a nice lunch, enjoy. It's a good job. I'd like that job. Can I be the privacy watchdog? I'd like to do that. We're going to take a break. When we come back, there is a lot of news, including James Gosling going to Google, which I think is a huge story, but that's just me. Before we go on, I would like to tell you a little bit about a great place to have a website. It's called Squarespace.com, the secret behind exceptional websites. We use it right now for our Inside TWiT blog, and it's been such a joy to work with. First of all, so easy to design a Squarespace site. So easy that, in fact, if you go to squarespace.com/twig right now, you can try it for free. No credit card needed. Just name your site. I mean, literally, do it right now. You'll have a site in 3 seconds. Name your site, use a password, email address, enter the letters, the CAPTCHA letters, so that they know that you're not a robot. And now you'll have a site and all the Squarespace benefits, the amazing hosting, the incredible artist design templates that get you started, but then the complete creative control you have after the fact with sliders. You don't need to know any special HTML or CSS tricks. Of course, if you do, there's nothing you can't do. You can make it look like, well, just look at the examples. You can make it look like the best looking sites in the world. All of them unique. There's no Squarespace look. And that's one of the things I really like about it. Try it today, free, squarespace.com/twig. One of the nice things about Squarespace is because it's the hosting plus the software, security updates and all updates are automatic. Version 6 is just around the corner. I can't wait to start talking about it, but I can't. So Just try it now. Just do me a favor. You'll be glad you're on the platform. That's all I can say. Seamless blog importing, actually from all kinds of websites using standard APIs, movable type, WordPress, TypePad, and Blogger. And true to Google's data liberation front, you can export your Squarespace blog using standard APIs at any time. You're never trapped. Great statistics and more. Starts at $12 a month for the best darn hosting and software you've ever seen. But do try it free for the next 2 weeks. Squarespace.com/twig. We thank them for their support of This Week in Google. Look, I can get skinny and fat.
Put me on skinny, please.
Oh, you're gorgeous. Stop it.
Aww.
So James Gosling is the guy who created Java, is one of the most brilliant computer scientists in the world. He was working at Oracle. Oracle,
kind of.
Well, yeah, I don't know exactly what he was doing because the Oracle got him when they bought Sun. So it was only, I think, a matter of time. I think you're see a lot. There's been a lot of people leaving, and I think this is just one more person. He was a former vice president at Sun. He didn't want to work for Oracle. In fact, he called Larry Ellison the Prince of Darkness. Okay, well, maybe he wasn't happy. I don't know.
I love the bearded curmudgeon developer, a brilliant engineer.
Yeah.
We should try to get him on the show sometime.
You know what? I would love to. I would love to talk to this guy.
That would be great.
He's so brilliant. So I don't know what he's going to do at the Google, but what a good place for him to be. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, indeed, right? Because Android is so Java-based, and Java's
right.
embedded at Google in lots of ways.
This was actually a little disappointment of mine, was how much Google likes Java, because I'm not a big Java fan.
You're not a fan?
No.
Oh.
I guess for the phone environment, I guess there's probably nothing better. But Java was on its last legs, and they brought it back.
Yeah.
I guess that's it on getting James Gosling on this show.
Great, that was a great idea for about 5 seconds.
Yeah, no, I love Java. I love it. I think GWT's
I love Java. I really do.
Do you like writing in Java?
I do very much.
Okay.
Very much. It was my first truly kind of object-oriented, strongly typed language. I have that. It's like that first love thing, It's like, you
feel about Java like I do about C.
Okay.
I love C.
Okay.
And Java's very C-like. It's got garbage collection that C doesn't have, and it's got a lot of nice features, and it's object-oriented, which C isn't. But it's very C-like.
Indeed.
Based on the C syntax. Well, anyway.
I feel that way about English.
English. What a language. What do you think about Amazon's Cloud Player? And actually, there is an Android link to this, because, of course, they've got the App Store now, but they also have an emulator. Apparently, they're using EC2 to do a Android emulator. You can try any app for an hour. Did you know that?
Oh, cool. I think I heard them mention this on All About Android, Eileen's new show, which I love and watched live this week.
Give it a plug. Mondays at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern on
Great
TWiT.
show. Eileen rocked it.
Yes. Eileen and Jason Howell do our new Android show.
Totally rocked it. And so I heard them talking about this emulator, but I didn't get a chance to try it. So this is within the Cloud Player?
Yeah.
Huh.
Isn't that clever? So now this is one of the things I've always said is great about Android to begin with, is that you have the ability to download, and if you don't want a program, delete it, and then you'll get a refund. It was originally 24 hours. Now it's like 15 minutes or something really, really short. Mm-hmm. But if you look, you have to go to the Android store and look. And do it on your browser, right? You go to the Android store and the Amazon's browser, and not all apps will do this. Let me see if I can find one that has a try it. Do you know offhand? Diner Dash? Just downloaded that. That's actually a great program. So test drive now.
Look at that.
Try this app on your computer. I bet it's Java. Look, look how fast that loaded. This is the actual game.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That is amazing.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yay, Amazon.
This is just like playing the actual game. I can't believe it. And it has that same problem where I don't know what to do at that point. Oh, good. Okay, here comes Flow. The dots show the number. This is a fun game. So this is a great way to learn how to... or to at least get a sense of a game. I don't know how long you can play it.
That's one step ahead of Apple, folks.
See, it says here 30 minutes remaining.
It is. I have to figure out how to enable this for my app. That's very cool.
Oh, yeah. So control the app by clicking and dragging. Features that access device features like the hardware or camera may not function, obviously. Keyboard import is not supported. I don't think it's Java because it was so fast. This was so fast.
Oh, Java hater.
No, nothing loaded. I don't know what there. This must be HTML5 or is it Flash? It's not Flash.
That's odd. How would you know? Just go to the source?
Right click.
Yeah, right click if you get a zoom.
Get nothing.
Huh. Oh, look at that.
Yeah, isn't that cool? It's got the volume buttons right on it.
Man.
What happens if I press the home button? Oh my God.
Total full-on emulator.
Oh
wow.
my God, that's amazing. Hey, honey, come here. Look, if you ever wanted to use Android, it's built right in. Holy camole. Look at that.
8.
I'm using, wow. I mean, I have half an hour now to use a Android phone. I wonder if I can make a phone call. Huh. Oh, that's weird.
It didn't disable the dialer. Okay.
Apparently, I'm calling somebody. Wow.
Look at that.
So this must be the SDK emulator, but it didn't take any time to load. I don't understand how it's doing this.
In the SDK and the emulator, a lot of this stuff, phone calls are disabled.
As they should be.
There's like a rack of Android phones at the Amazon headquarters that are making calls for Leo right now.
Yeah. Well, we can't get through, but we'll let you know. That's pretty cool.
But Cloud Player is really cool. It's like this is kind of an old news story, but it's new since our last episode.
Yeah, no, it's new. It's just a good story.
Yeah, I mean, you get 5 gigabytes free to store documents and multimedia.
Oh, it's not just. It could be other. It could be
it's anything.
It's anything. Yeah, so you can sync your documents too.
I just thought it was music and video. So it's anything.
No. This is the beginning of cloud storage of anything.
And if I buy an album from once a year from Amazon, I get 20 gigs free.
And the albums are there for free no matter what.
Well. So, does it have like a web dev interface? Is there any interface to it, Gina?
There is like it's a browser-based uploader. This is the thing that I didn't like. This is the thing that
there must be an API.
I agree. It's not Dropbox.
It's not Dropbox. See, Dropbox nailed this, right? And Amazon hasn't quite gotten there yet. I mean, the MP3 streaming is awesome, so you can listen to your music wherever you are. That's really awesome. But right, it doesn't have the Dropbox client, so it's not this like constant sync. It's a browser-based uploader. I'm hoping that it's going to get a little better. But yeah, it'll scan your entire iTunes library and upload what you want to it. And if you buy MP3s, like you said, from Amazon, which I always do because iTunes drives me crazy, those will get stored for free.
This is huge for them. I mean,
it is.
It is. Well, so they barely beat out Google, by all accounts, beat out Google and Apple to this.
Yep.
And what excites me so much about this, going too far, which is what I always do, that's my stock and trade, this starts to kill the networks. You add this to Netflix having a new show that they bought.
Yeah.
You have this ability to watch this stuff
Everything's
in more
changing.
places. It's changing a lot fast. And the whole idea that you can control our media and content and bits starts to go out the bloody window.
So now I'm just uploading files to this folder.
Yep.
So there does need to be some sort of, it'd be nice if it was web dev. I bet it is web dev if they would just like that.
They need an app.
Yeah, but if it's web dev, then it would just be, anything could use it.
I'm trying to get Werner Vogels, who's the CTO of Amazon, on the show. So we'll try to get him next week.
Good. Look at this.
That'd be great.
And now can I share this with people too? Is there sharing?
Yeah, I think so, yes.
Oh, that's a good question. I actually didn't try that.
Oh man, I'm liking this. I just thought I completely missed the real import of this. I thought, oh, it's just music.
Yeah. No. This is Amazon AWS comes to the common man and woman.
Wow.
Yep.
For backup.
Because now
Microsoft's offering SkyDrive 25 gigs. So everybody's in this business. It's funny, Amazon's getting all the attention. Microsoft's been doing this for months, but nobody's paid any attention to that.
Well, here's
they don't sell any music.
Does this compete with Chrome?
Chrome OS.
I think it enhances Chrome, right? Because all your stuff is where you need it to be. I mean, similar to Dropbox. I mean, you can listen to your playlist.
We kind of had this conversation on MacBreak Weekly. I think probably Google welcomes this. I don't think this is a competition. This empowers Google. They didn't want to sell. I mean, they did talk about Google Music, but I think they didn't really want to be in the music business. Let Amazon do that.
Right.
I don't think they really care if Amazon has an app store. That's good for Android. Look at that emulator. That's fantastic for Android. Let somebody who knows retail, knows how to do all this, do that. And Google doesn't make money particularly that way.
Yeah.
Although they do now have in-app purchases. I wonder if they're going to take
I'm asking something else, though.
Yeah.
If you look at that emulator and you realize that you could run programs on Amazon, I guess what I'm asking is, does Amazon at some point get the ambition to have an OS?
What do they need an OS for, right? I mean, they just have a UI.
Because they love control, right? They love to be able to be. They're rather Apple-like.
I'm sorry, I'm listening to my music.
Gina.
And this is so cool! Wow,
Isn't it?
Don't please try to analyze why I played Another One Bites the Dust. Apple. Very interesting. Wow. Wow. Good for you. I'm glad.
So are we going to see Google Drive anytime soon? Is that I mean, there's been kind of rumors about a G Drive similar, that offers something similar to this for a while, right? And Google Docs has sort of touched this line a little bit. It'll be interesting to see what that offering will be like.
The other thing is, one of them better buy Dropbox fast.
Oh, God. Dropbox is now suddenly worth $30 billion or something.
I mean, Dropbox just nails syncing. That's what I love about it. It's not just that it's in the cloud. It's distributed.
There is a Java-based solution that's very Dropbox-based or similar to Dropbox that is owned by LaCie called Walla. You know about Walla?
Oh.
This could be the dark horse in all of this. Secure online storage works very similarly to Dropbox, but it's a peer-to-peer system. You can add to the Walla storage that you own for free by giving up some of your local hard drive space to Walla.
Oh, like a peer-to-peer
situation.
Like
it's similar to Dropbox in features.
From a business perspective, that's so fascinating that it's like Netflix getting out of discs to go into online. This is LaCie getting out of hard disks in your home.
I know, isn't that funny?
Move your stuff up.
They're a hard drive company. What are they doing? Exactly. They're selling secure online storage.
Very smart.
And so so it's kind of an interesting, a little bit of a different model than Dropbox. Randall Schwartz told me about this, but you can buy, of course, space, but you can also trade. You can trade space. You can give them space, which is really.
Gina, is there any security issue there? You imagine?
I don't love the idea of strangers sort of reaching into my hard drive and using space, but there are a couple programs, and the names are escaping me, but there are these programs where you can set up a deal with like your best friend across town and say, hey, I'll back up to your computer if you back up to my computer. And I love that kind of federated. I mean, I love the idea of being able to share hard drive space and people that I trust. But whenever there are peer-to-peer programs running on your machine with ports open, and there's always security risks. Yeah. It's a little scary,
even if it's Java.
Couch surfing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, the people in Google, Kansas are so upset.
Yeah.
Topeka changed its name to Google. Google even kind of changed their name to Topeka in a nod back, but it's not Topeka. It's Kansas City that gets the gigabit.
People of Topeka reportedly crestfallen. That's a great Engadget.
That's got to be Engadget. Yeah, that's an Engadget headline. I wonder if they actually talk to anybody in Topeka. I love it.
I know. I want to see stricken photos of citizens of Topeka.
Oh. Aww. Google reps say it's the beginning, not the end. This is just first market.
Oh, please.
That's that I understand as a kind of a promoting the idea of gigabit, but does Google want to get in that business? That's a weird business.
Does Google,
I guess in a way that might forward their interests.
This is, if they hadn't played the devil's deal with Verizon, I'd still think they were on the side of net neutrality, but I don't believe that now.
Yeah. YouTube says 33 million streams in 189 countries around the world for the grand finale of the YouTube Symphony Orchestra. That has to be a record for the number of streams. I can't even believe. I remember just a few years ago when Live Aid had 170,000 streams, and people said the most streams ever, amazing. 33 million?
That is nuts. That is some serious traffic.
Actually, the total. Oh no! Wait, the total mobile live streams was 2.8 million.
Jeez.
Mobile.
What did they play?
I don't know. You want
like this isn't Lady Gaga, folks. This is Google changing the culture.
Here, yeah, that's right. That's true. That's a good point.
It is a good point.
It's a symphony freaking orchestra.
Yeah.
At least it wasn't opera. And now, ladies and gentlemen, Shostakovich's Symphony in D minor. This I don't know. I made that up. Is that Sydney? Is that the Sydney Opera House? Where is that? That's beautiful. Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. I pushed the wrong button. There we go. Now you're watching it. So we're going to take a little break. Come back. I'll leave this on. This will be our musical interlude. It's probably a complete violation of all that is holy, but I'm going to play it anyway. We will take a break. Come back with your tip, number, and tool of the week. But first, this word from our friends at MailRoute. I've talked about this before. It's since 2004, I've been using MailRoute to stop spam on my Leoville server. If you run your own server, and that's the key on all this, if you run your own server, go to mailroute.info and find out about simply the best anti-spam filtering. One of the reasons I like it is that you don't actually see the spam on your server ever, which you got to love. You just simply change your MX record to point to MailRoute. Your mail goes to MailRoute. There's the music. It goes to MailRoute. They filter out all the lumps, so you don't have to see them. And comes back to you spam-free. Give it a try today. 10% off for the life of your account when you go to mailroute.info. Here it is, From the Sands to the seas. So the YouTube Symphony Orchestra, the whole idea was like these people played the individual instruments on YouTube, and then they put it all together.
I think so.
Yeah, I think so.
All right, let's jump ahead. Nice organ. So then they bring them all together later. You know, obviously they're now all in the same place.
That's the cool job.
Yeah, Phantom of the Opera time. It's a giant pipe organ at the Sydney Opera House. 33 million people watch this? That's bigger than the Eurovision Song Contest. I mean, that's huge.
That's incredible. Well, and so, folks, this is a big medium.
They streamed this. I mean, only Google would have enough server power to do that.
Bye-bye, Comcast. Bye-bye.
Yeah. I think this is exciting. It's good for people like us.
Yeah.
All right. We got to get out of the way here because we got another show coming in here, the Fabulous TNT with Mr. Tom Merritt. So let's get to Gina Trapani's. I like the music. Gina Trapani's Tip of the Week.
Speaking of Cloud Player, if you've got an Android phone, the Amazon Mp3 app can stream your playlist directly to your phone, which works really well if you're running out of space on your phone, like I am.
Right.
So you can like I've got Wi-Fi at the gym, so I can stream my kind of workout weight playlist, which I've got going on here. I got some Lady Gaga and some Glee on there.
I immediately deleted all my hard drive based stuff.
Right. You can free up space on your phone, stream, and obviously it works much better over Wi-Fi. And also you can transfer items to your phone. So there's a download button within the Cloud Player app. So if you do want to grab a file before you are somewhere where there isn't Wi-Fi, you can do that as well. So if you haven't checked out the Amazon Mp3 app for Android, which is still in the approval process for iOS, definitely check it out.
You got the store or the player.
Yep.
And then, oh, look, wait a minute. Wow. So this is, remember I copied those files over just a minute ago? They're now here on my phone.
Yep.
Wow. That's pretty cool because they're audio files. And then there's the Queen stuff. So this is all playing from the cloud.
And it's much nicer than connecting your phone with a wire to transfer over files.
Yeah. Store all our, and the nice thing is if you buy music from the Amazon store, it doesn't count against your 20 gigabyte total. So you could have this got to be really scary for Apple. It's really got to be scary.
Not only that, but the music labels and the entertainment copyright holders are going.
Sony's a little worried about it because they have a similar service, and apparently they're not too happy.
Right.
They're not too happy at all.
Amazon will fight that fight, though. I'm sure that
yeah.
other companies are glad that they're doing that.
Come and get us, baby! Your number of the week, Jeff. I hope 33 million wasn't your number.
No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. In the campaign to ruin the show and now make it not This Week in Glee, but This Week in Gaga, 2 weeks in a row, you got to mention Lady Gaga, 9 million followers.
Wow.
On Twitter. Is she the top followed now?
Yes, number one.
Yeah.
She has been for a while, actually.
Yeah.
She's got the mega stardom, but also she uses the tool well. She talks to her fans in an authentic way, you know? Yep. Not to use that term, which is overused.
So that was a simple number.
Well, my tool of the week is I think pretty exciting. Let me just pull up the screen. It's cloudgirlfriend.com. So no, I'm just kidding. The social network girlfriend. Step 1, define your perfect girlfriend. Step 2, we bring her into existence. Step 3, connect and interact with her publicly on your favorite social network. Step 4, enjoy a public long-distance relationship with your perfect girl. They say launching soon, but due to high demand, we're only able to accommodate a limited number of users to this site. Register early to get in line. So just in case you wanted a girlfriend. I don't know if there's a cloud boyfriend, but there is a cloud girlfriend.
So glad that this show did not land on April Fool's. So glad.
I think this might be April Fool's.
Yeah.
You think?
All of you go out there.
I'm signing up. Okay, welcome back.
Anil Dash and April Fools. He did a great piece a few years ago about how your joke is stupid.
Okay.
Yeah. I love the April Fool's backlash, but you know Google does something every year, regardless.
And now this is my link for cloudgirlfriend.com. I don't know why, but I have a link now to. I'm going to tweet it. I have a cloud girlfriend. All right, the best way to get a girlfriend is already have one. Oh, I'm married. I guess that counts. I'm going to tweet it. What the hell? Let's give it away. No, my tool is insanely much more useful. It's the new Google Guru, an instant messenger Google thingamagob. I don't know exactly what all it does.
It's a bot.
It's a bot. Just
for
you.
But it goes back, as somebody said, it goes back to 2001.
Oh.
Remember when bots were hot?
Yeah. I used to have a Leo bot. That would get smarter.
Right, I forgot.
Yeah, I had a Leo bot. I put it in the chat room. It would get smarter and smarter and smarter, and you could teach it, and pretty soon the chat room. Anyway, this one, let me see if I can pull this up. Boy, I have too many buttons on here. So I'm in my instant messenger. It works with Gtalk. You add a guru at google.com to your friends, and then you can ask it questions like whether you said San Diego is nice, huh? San Diego, and it will tell you that it is mostly cloudy, 21 degrees centigrade. It'll be sunny tomorrow, though.
It's a little cloudy today for us.
I could do other stuff with this, but I don't know what it is.
Do you like define in a word, calculator?
Oh, I like that.
But isn't that Google search?
It's Google search, but in an IM window, basically.
Okay.
It's cute.
It's cute. I think maybe I should go back to cloudgirlfriend.com.
Yeah,
it makes you feel like you have a friend who answers you or answers your chats.
It's kind of one or the other. You can have a guru or a girlfriend. Gina Trapani, thank you for being here. Gina is at smarterware.org, the founder of Lifehacker, and of course she created ThinkUp, thinkupapp.com.
Great show.
How long before people can have their? I mean, I guess you can run your own server.
You can run your own server. One of our community members is talking about creating a hosted version. So if you're interested in that, please join us on the mailing list and let him know, because he's kind of deciding whether or not he wants to, launch something like that. So
sign me up. Idiot here wants to sign up that way.
All right, good to know. I'll pass on the word.
Jeff Jarvis, not an idiot, is the author of What Would Google Do, and is going to go right back to his typewriter and finish editing his book so that we can see public parts soon in a bookstore near you. He's also blogging at buzzmachine.com. Thanks for being here, Jeff.
Thank you for having me.
Gina, I just saw that this was going to be your tip, Google Talk Guru.
It was. I
I'm
decided to clear the way for you.
Oh man, yeah, because
okay.
I'm very light on tips.
Well, frankly, she got a better tip than you did, Leo.
Yeah, actually,
so.
I liked her tip. Her tip was actually useful.
Yeah.
Mine was just an IM tell you the weather in San Diego. I mean, what good is that?
I have a soft spot for IM bots. I gotta say.
I do too.
They're very 2001, but still.
I have a category in my IM for bots.
Oh,
I talk to a lot of bots. I'm going to make another Leo bot. That was
when
fun.
you're lonely,
I am very
you go to your
lonely.
bots.
Yeah.
Or your girlfriend.
Or your imaginary social media girlfriend. Thank you for being here, everybody. This show records every Wednesday at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern Time. So you can watch it live at live.twit.tv, and it's always a lot of fun. Of course, if you didn't get to see it live, you can always download it at twit.tv/.
Soon, Leo.
Soon the Google will have it. Actually, Google used to have a podcasting. I guess they still have a kind of a podcasting service. Nobody uses it through Google IG. But best way to go, twit.tv/TWIG. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time on This Week in Google.